Welcome to another video tutorial. In this video, we're going to take a quick look at the topic of weather. Now, this is something that I have just previously covered in my seasons video, but that was part of a larger set of videos where we were covering the topic of in-game clock and calendar and things like that. So what I thought I would do is I'd separate out the weather, because I know it is a commonly asked question, is how do you do weather? So for those that just want to know the answer to that without having to implement a calendar system and a clock and all of that as well, I thought I'd just cover this topic in its own video for those that just want the quick answer. How do you do weather in a game? Okay, so we've got a bare bones project here where we'll start setting up some weather. So the first thing you need to do, obviously, is you need to create the precipitation effect itself. So whether it's snow, rain, whatever it is you want. So we'll create both of those in this video. So to start, you go to the effect editor and you click new. And there's already two presets which we can use for weather, which is great. So we can use those. So we'll start by selecting the rain preset and then you give it a name. So we'll just call it rain, makes sense. And then you click OK. That will open up the effects editor and you'll see the rain coming down. So if you want to use it as it is, then it's pretty much good to go. You can then just add this effect to your map or to your game and it will work. However, let's, for the purposes of the video, let's make some changes. I'm going to change the emitter size, the box size. I'm going to make it 100 on the Z so that the rain comes down a bit higher up. So it's not quite so ground level. And then for the rain size, I'm actually going to make it just a bit bigger. So instead of 0.05, I'm just going to make it a bit more pronounced, just so that in-game you can see it a bit clearer. Okay. You can also change things like the color. So if you wanted the rain to, be a brilliant blue, for example, all the time, then obviously you can change that. For some reason that didn't take. Oh, the alpha. Yeah, you can also, the alpha is the transparency. So if you slide that all the way, and obviously now you can see the rain's a lot more visible, but obviously that's going to look quite fake. So you can mess about with, obviously, those settings. Let's take this right back to about there. You get the idea. You can mess around with the color. We'll leave it as it is for now, though, just so we've got something we can implement. Okay. And you can change things like the amount of rain. So if you wanted more, then we could, double that, for example. And now there's more rain coming down. You can change the speed here, the speed scale. So we could change this from 1 to say 3, and now it's going to come down like it's torrential rain. So we'll leave it at 1.5. I think that was fine. So there's our rain. So we'll save that, and then let's make some snow. So same thing again, we'll close the effect editor, we'll create a new one. This time we'll select the preset snow, and we'll just call it snow. Click OK, and then you get your default snow. And again, this is pretty good to go. However, again, I just like to change the emitter size so that it starts a bit higher up. So we'll set the box size on the Z to 100, so it starts coming down from the top of the effects editor. And I also like to make it just a little slower, just so that it very gently drifts. It's quite a nice effect when it's just a little slower. And again, you can change the size of the spheres, because the snow is basically a sphere. If you didn't want it to be a sphere, you could make it a cube. And then, that creates like a cube effect. And just like with the rain, you can make it, different size on different dimensions. So if you made this 0.1, for example, then, it's narrower in one direction. Or you could put that back to 0.5 or whatever it was before and make it narrower in the other direction. Yeah. Or you can set it to sphere like it was already, and then you can make the snow, smaller in one direction or whatever you want to do, or in both directions. So that's how you can change the size. That's quite good. It's quite a nice small sphere. And then again, you can change the color. You can slide the alpha all the way to the right, so you get more visible snow. So it's less transparent, so it's easier to see. So let's do that. Let's have a really brilliant white snow that comes down so we can see it all the time. Once you've got your snow as you want it, you can then click Save. And that's created the two particle effects, the precipitation effects. Now, obviously, we need to add them to the game. So with the snow now set up, we can close this and we can go back to our map. So let's talk about how do you get snow and rain into your maps. So there's two ways of putting weather into your maps. One way is easier, but has some drawbacks. And then the other is not quite as easy, but in my opinion, gets rid of all the drawbacks. So it's sort of worth putting in the extra bit of effort to do it. Let me quickly talk about these. So the first method is to actually place the weather into your map directly. Now you have to do that with scripts, just like you have to do with the other method, but it only takes a couple of script commands. But first of all, you need to decide where in your map do you want your effects to originate from. So for weather, obviously you're going to want to place it as central in your map as possible. So you want to find a tile in your map that's, as central as it can be. So I don't know if there is necessarily a dead center in this map. So let's just eyeball it and let's use 0, 0, 0. I mean, it is pretty much the center of the grid. So we may as well use this. As long as the map itself is sort of symmetrical, then that will be the center. So we want to add let's say the snow to this tile. So what you want to do is you want to, in your startup script, you want to add the effect to that tile. Now, I should also mention that this project only has one map, the overworld map. So when you click New Game, it's going to load this map anyway. Obviously, if you've got other maps where it should also be raining or snowing, then you'll need to do something extra to beyond just this as well, and I'll show you that as well once we've done this. But first of all, because we've only got one map, we're going to click Edit, and then we're going to add, underneath Load Map, we're going to add Effect, and then it takes a couple of parameters. The first is the name of the effect. So we created one called Rain and Snow. So let's add the snow effect. And then the second parameter is the coordinates on the map where you're going to add this effect. So we decided we were going to put it at 0, 0, 0. So that will add that effect to the center of the map. And then the final parameter is the ID that you're going to give the effect. This will allow you to reference that ID in scripts. So let's use snow_1 as the ID, okay? We can also add multiple effects to the same coordinate. So if we copied that line and pasted it, we could also add rain to the same coordinate, okay? And that would, you obviously need to change the ID as well. So we'll call that rain 1, okay? Now, if we apply and save, if we now play the game, you'll see that, well, I'm not actually sure what's going to happen because we've added both to the same coordinate, but one of them at the very least will be playing at the start of the game. So let's quickly load the game and see where we're at. Okay, so you can see they're both playing, okay, which goes to show that you can add two effects, not only to the same tile or coordinate even, but they can both play at the same time as well. Obviously, you wouldn't necessarily want snow and rain at the same time, but at least you know you can do that, okay? Now, this goes to show that when you add an effect to a tile, or a coordinate in this case, it will automatically play. Now, let's take a look at why that's happening. So, if we load up the effect editor again, and let's, for example, load up our snow particle effect, this very top option here, emitting on, this tells the game whether it should automatically play or not. Because it's on, it's set to automatically play. So the emitter is automatically on. So whenever you add this effect, it's going to play. So let's say, for example, in our script, we don't want it to rain at the start of the game. So what you then want to do is once you've added the effect, then the next line under you would then disable effect, and then you can use the ID that you just gave it in the third parameter. So you would say, I want to disable effect rain_1. So now when you play the game, it will only be snowing because we've disabled the rain effect after we added it. So the rain effect still exists on that tile, it's just not playing, okay? The alternative to that, however, is what you could do instead is you could just have both of these effects without the emitter on. And you'll notice in a minute, the snow will eventually stop. It's just because it's falling so slowly, it has to eventually stop. If we now save the emitter with that off and do the same with the rain, let's also turn the rain off and save, then now when we add those effects to our game, we don't need to disable the effects because they're automatically set to not play. So if we apply and save and play the game now, then you wouldn't know we'd done anything because nothing is playing, okay? So then when you want to then have the rain appear, or the snow, or whatever it is you want to do, let's set it to snow, then you would just enable effect. So disable and enable effect allow you to toggle the effects that you want on and off. So in this case, we're going to use snow 1. Again, you need to reference the ID that you give it in the third parameter. Okay, this name here will allow you to reference that later in scripts, like for example, enable effect. So that now means that when we play the game, it will be snowing. Obviously, you don't have to put this in startup. You can have this happen whenever you want the snow to start falling. And so here we are in game, and you can see it's now snowing. Okay. Now let's talk about the caveats, the downfalls or the downside to doing it this way, to putting it on the map directly with add effect. So with add effect, what you're essentially doing is you're adding the particle effect to this coordinate, okay? Now that's fine for a small map like this. However, if you have a larger map, that's going to create some problems. Mainly the problem is going to be that you are eventually going to walk out of the particle emitter, okay? It has a range, right? If we play, for example, the rain effect again, just so we can see it. So this box size here, this is the size of the emitter. So X 160, Y 160, and Z 100 is the size of the emitter and therefore where the rain exists. So if we went to, for example, Z 200, we would be above the rain and it wouldn't be raining, okay? If we zoom out for a minute, you can kind of see where it starts and therefore above 100 there's no rain. We can also see that over here there's no rain and over here there's no rain. So if we tilt this a bit, this grid is where the rain is coming down, right? So if you imagine this is our map, and it's a very small map, you can see that if we had a map bigger than this, let's say our map went all the way out here, then we're going to walk out of areas where it's no longer raining. We're going to walk out of the rain effect. So by placing it in the map, it creates this problem of, well, hang on a minute. If we place it at 0, 0, 0 on our map, but we walk out of a 160 grid, we're going to walk out of the rain. So there's two ways to solve that, but neither is particularly great for performance. One way is to add multiple of these rain effects. So let's go back to the map, for example, and let's say we decided that, let's say this map was much bigger. It went all the way over here as well. And it only rained within this part of the map. So when you walk over here, there's no rain. Let's just put some grass down just so you can visualize it. So let's say it only rained here, and then when we walk into this bit, there's no rain. So one solution would be to, in your startup script, add snow to one of these tiles. So you might then click the center of this, for example, 880 or -8, -80, and you might add on the line below, you might add snow again. You'd have to give it a different ID. So if we copied So if we copy that and paste, add snow again to -8, -8, 0, and we call this snow 2, and then we could enable effect snow 2 underneath this one. Let's just quickly do that. Okay. So now when you play the game, ensure I didn't make a mistake. Oh, that should be -8. Sorry, I left a minus out there. So let's just check that again. So now we leave one snow effect, and you can see that a bit further up, there is another one, right? So you'd have to start having multiple snow effects covering your whole map, right? That's one way of doing it. Now, in a map that's really small and basic like this, it's not going to have a huge detriment on performance, but you can imagine if you've got a lot going on in your map, got a lot of NPCs walking around, you've got a lot of objects, you've got a lot of navigation going on, and if you've got a lot of, particle effects, it will have an impact, right? The other way that we could resolve the issue is instead of adding it again, let's just edit the script and take away the second snow effect. Instead of adding a duplicate across your map, we could just make the one we add at 0, 0, 0, which is there, bigger. So instead of just covering this area, it covers a much larger area. So to do that, you'd go into the effects editor, you'd load up your snow effect, you'd set it on so we can see what we're doing, zoom out a bit, so you can see where the confines are at the moment of the current emitter. So we'd need this to be, much bigger. The maximum is 2048, I think. So if we set this to 5000, it should set it to that. Okay, so we'll set that to 2048 as well. And now you'll see that it covers a much larger area. It's gone all the way out over there, and it will also go out in the other direction as well. However, you'll also notice that what that's done is that's made the snow appear like it's less heavy, because what it's done is it's taken the same amount of particles, in this case 1000, and it's spreading them out across a much larger area. So to counter the fact that we've made the emitter larger, we would then also need to increase the amount of particles. Let's say, 10,000. So we add another 0 in there, and now it sort of looks like it did before, where it's quite heavily snowing, but now it's snowing in a much larger area. But I think you can already start to tell it's having quite a dramatic effect on the performance, because we're now doubling, we're using now 10 times the amount of particles, right? And it's going to have an effect. So just adding that to your map on top of the map itself, with the size of it, the amount of, objects on the map, the NPCs walking around, this isn't necessarily a great thing to do either. So let me now show you what I feel is the better way of adding weather to a game. Now, I did mention as well that if you had multiple maps, if you did want to do it this way, how do you add weather to multiple maps? Let's close snow without saving it, because I'm not going to have it be that big with that amount of particles. Let's just check we're back to where we were. Okay, close that without saving. So if you had another map, then what you would want to do, let's say this was map 2, you want to make a script just like we did with startup that has add effect, name of the effect, so snow, the coordinate in the other map where you want to add the snow to, and then the ID of that snow, and then enabling it. So you'd make a script very similar to this, but it just wouldn't have the load map in it. And then you would put that script in the post-load bit of the subsequent maps. So when it then loads the map and it's fully loaded, it will then run that script, add the effect to that tile, that coordinate, and then start snowing. Yeah. So you would just make a script that says add effect, snow, coordinate, wherever the coordinate is. Let's say you wanted it at -2, -1, 0, give it an ID, and then that script would go into post-load script of all the all the maps that should then be snowing or raining, depending on what it is you're trying to go for. Okay. However, let me show you a better way, which in my opinion not only means you don't have to do that, you don't have to keep putting scripts on all the maps, but also it just makes weather more efficient. Okay. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to edit the player character. And you could use the head attach point that's already on most player characters. Obviously, if you're using your own character, you may not have these attach points necessarily, so you'd need to make one anyway. But what you're going to do is with your character, you're going to make a designated attach point. So I'm just going to click the attach point tool, and I'm just going to click somewhere on the head of the player. So let's just say there, and give it an attach point ID. So let's call this weather, makes sense. So we'll call that weather. And if you wanted to, you could edit the attach point. So what we'll do is we'll click the arrow, click the attach point, and then go to the properties of the weather attach point. And I'm just going to raise it slightly above the player's head, just like that. Okay. And we'll click save. Now, obviously, that attach point will need to be on all frames. So do bear in mind, we've only added it to frame 1 at the moment. So just because that's going to be a bit of an annoyance right now, I'm actually not going to do it that way. I'm actually going to use the head attach point because then it is already on all frames. Okay. But if you want, just showing you that if you wanted to add your own, you would just add an attach point, you'd call it something, but you'd have to make sure it's on all frames. Otherwise, whenever it plays a frame that doesn't have that attach point, the weather will disappear, right? So make sure it's on all frames of your model, okay? So we'll use head because that's already on all frames of the model. So we'll cancel editing the model because it's already got the head attach point. So instead, what we're going to do, instead of adding the effect to the map, what we're actually going to do is we're going to attach effect, and the first command is the first parameter is the effect we want to add. So snow. Again, we're referencing this particle effect down here. So snow. Then it's the entity which it should be attached to, the player, obviously. And then the final one is the attach point name. So this is where you would put weather if we'd created the weather attach point and had that on all frames. But in my case, head. Okay. Now, to make life easier, I'm then going to add the following lines. $snow equals player dot effect head. That's going to put into this variable here a reference to the effect we've just added. And this will allow me now to do assign entity ID $snow, and we can type snow1. This will allow us now to whenever we want to reference the attached effect, we don't have to keep referencing it we don't have to keep doing it this way. We can now give it the ID snow1. So whenever we disable effect, we can disable effect snow1 now, and it will know that it's the effect attached to the player. Okay. And let's just apply and save that and just see where we're at. I can't remember if the snow automatically plays or not. Okay, so the snow isn't currently playing, but what we could do for now is we'll bring down the console and we can type enable effect, open and close parentheses, and we can type in speech marks snow_1, and because we assign that to the ID on the effect now attached to our head, it should play that effect. And now it starts to rain. That's snow even. Okay. Now the beauty of doing it this way is twofold. First of all, wherever we walk, it will always be snowing. Notice how I never leave the snow, even when we walk into this area where it wasn't initially snowing before, we've still got snow. And the reason being is it's attached to us. So wherever we walk, the snow will follow. It's attached to us. But the beautiful thing is you can't tell it's attached. It's not like the snow is so obviously moving with us. It still looks like it's just snowing, right? And it would be the same with rain as well. And the beautiful thing about doing it this way is it doesn't take up any extra sort of resources that it would take for you to cover your entire map in snow, because it's only using the same amount, so that the particle emitter is the same size, right? But it's just moving wherever we go. So it will cover the whole map, because wherever you walk, it will always be snowing. Now, the benefit to that as well is that whenever we change map, because it's attached to us, it will also be snowing in the other map as well. So we don't need to keep adding the effects to scripts that then need to be in a post load of every single map. Whenever we want it to stop snowing, we just stop the effect on the player. Whenever we want it to snow, we just enable the effect on the player. Okay. Now, obviously, it should go without saying, if we were to enter a building, currently it would be snowing inside the building. So what you would want to do is have a tile just before you go into a building. In fact, let me just set up an example. So let me quickly go to the tile editor. Let's edit this, and we'll do save as. We'll just do a quick, simple example for now. We'll save this as floor, and let's make it like a wood floor or something like that. So we'll just change the colors, something like that, just so it's got a pattern or something. So this is like a wooden floor. Imagine this is the building, okay? So I'm not going to bother with walls or anything like that, but here you'd have your floor plan of your building, right? So this is where we don't want it to snow, okay? So imagine there was a door here. Don't know if I've got, let me see, let's go to the asset library quickly and see if there's a doorway or something. Here we go, we'll use this as an example. So we'll put that there. Obviously we need to put navigation back. Okay, so what we need to do is set it so that when we're on this tile, when we're on this tile, we stop the snow, okay? So you would have a on character enters tile script. We'll do a quick script for now, where what we would do is we'd edit this, and we would delete what's in here, and we would disable effect, and you would use snow 1 because we've given it that ID. Whoops. Like so. Let's just copy that because I'm going to use it again in a minute. Click validate, OK, and then on this tile you would do the opposite. So you've now left the building, so you would enable effect. Now, thinking about it, because the snow is falling so slow, sorry, it's going to take a while for it to stop. So you actually probably don't want to do that. What you're actually going to want to do, because you're going to want it to stop almost immediately because you've entered a building, is you're going to want to detach it. So you're going to want to detach effect, and then it takes what's the entity that should be that has the attached thing on, and then what's the attach point name that's got the effect on it. So in this case, the player head attach point should have its effect detached. Okay, and then this one you would reattach, and if it wasn't set to autoplay, you would play it. So let's just quickly do that. So we'll attach effect snow player head And then we'll do it the quicker way for now. Snow equals player dot effect head enable effect snow. Okay, so we're storing in this variable the effect we've just attached, and then we're enabling it. Okay, so whenever you enter the building, it will detach whatever's on your head, and then when you leave the building, it will reattach the snow and play the snow. Okay, so we're currently in the building at the moment, so if we leave, then it starts to snow. Obviously, you will get a bit of a hitch there as it adds the effects and starts playing it, because obviously that's just going to happen with the engine. But it's currently snowing, and obviously we'll be outside at the moment. And then as soon as you go inside into a building, it stops snowing because we're inside. And then you leave, and oh yes, you would have to obviously it would have to happen only once. So the reason that's happening is it's trying to constantly detach it, but it's already done it. So in your detach script here, you would have to do a check for, is there something attached? And if there is, then detach it, otherwise don't. So you would do something like, you would either have a global property that gets set once it's done this, and you'd say if global property is true, then detach effect, set it to false. Or you could say if player.effect head not null, so for example, let's just quickly do that. If player effect head not null, then that means there's something attached to your head, because there's something there. In which case, detach the effect. And then we'll put an end on the other side. And then that way, it will only do this once, because the first time you enter the building, it won't be null, so it will do that. And then the next time it will be null because it's removed the effect. So let's just, that should be enough to fix it. So if I keep entering this tile, it shouldn't error. Okay? And then if I leave the building, it should start snowing, go in, should stop, go back out. Yeah, fix the error and it's working. So that should give you an idea of how to use weather. And obviously if I had multiple maps, you would see that it would keep snowing in the other maps as well. Because obviously, as long as the effect is playing and it's attached to the player, it will go wherever we go. So hopefully that's given you an idea of how to use weather in your games. So with that said, that'll wrap up this tutorial. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more tutorials.